Hey, welcome to the Art Condition Podcast, a weekly show that will discuss the business, community, and often undiscussed stress and mental health concerns of being a professional artist, or even a serious hobbyist. I'm Joby. I've been in the tattoo and illustration professions for 25 years. My co-host is Moose, a data analyst, social media manager, and art agent. If you enjoy the content, please consider visiting the Patreon page in the show notes to help support the effort. Or if that's not an option, please like, subscribe, leave a good review, or just share with your friends. And definitely go visit the links of our guests on this episode. Thanks for listening, and have a great day. Today we are talking to Christopher Cant. There's no way to say this easily, so I'll just say it. This episode is going to blow your mind. You might not agree with everything you hear, but I promise you it's going to be very interesting. Before we did this interview, I was making some social media announcements about the upcoming interview, and I referred to the projects that Christopher is working on as cutting edge. Later, Christopher gave me a bit of ribbing for describing it that way, but it's not just hyperbole. I think it's accurate. For instance, it's not unlikely you've heard of blockchain, but have you heard about how artists are using it to sell their art? And of course you know about blogging, but when was the last time you heard about a step-by-step process to write a blog that actually makes money? And Pinterest? Well, who knew that was for anything but hoarding pictures and selling shoes? We're going to talk about all of these things and how Christopher is using them in ways that are actually making him money. It's not that Christopher invented these tools, but he's unique amongst the artists I know in how much work he has done in researching them and getting them to work for him. The tools he discusses are innovative opportunities for artists and offer revenue streams that are outside the typical and predictable silos. So please, have a listen. Thank you so much for being here, man. Really appreciate you giving us the time. It's great to see you. I feel like you've been this screen name for so long. It's really great to be talking to you in person.
Yeah, it's cool to see you guys. Well, I see you on your podcast, which I watch diligently every single weekend. But yeah, it's cool to talk. I've never actually spoken to you person to person, man to man.
No, it's been a while. But let's bring everybody else up to speed on who you are. Tell us just briefly a little bit about yourself and your background and how you got sucked in and swallowed whole by the art monster.
Okay. I don't know if you guys know. I was born in the Falkland Islands, so that's going back a lot of years. I feel like that's relevant because it did mean that I spent quite a lot of time drawing and doing things like I was really into Warhammer. Watching films, Dark Crystal, that was a big one for me. I don't know if you guys know the Dark Crystal. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time nerding out. I remember reading, there's the Belgariad by David Eddings. That was a huge series for me. That's like Lord of the Rings for early teens. Yeah, so I think I got sucked in at a really early age.
That was the creative stuff, but where about the technical know-how? Where did you start with that?
Yeah, the actual pen to paper.
Right. Well, okay. So, I mean, how it went for me, I did well art GCSEs, but I also did really well. Mathematics was like something I was awesome at as well. I wouldn't say I was awesome at art, but I was really good at math and I was pretty good at art. So I went on to college, 16 to 18. I guess you guys would call that high school. And I did, maths, physics, fine art, and product design. And fine art, it was not what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be illustration, but I don't remember actually doing any studying of any fundamentals. I remember it was kind of like, do what you want, and then write an essay afterwards where you justify what you've just done with some clever writing. That's kind of how I felt. I didn't really understand what it wanted from me. So I didn't do very well at college in fine art, but I did really well with maths and product design and physics. So then I decided I would go on to uni and to hell with the art thing because I don't get it. And I did computer science. But halfway through doing computer science, I realized I'd made a huge mistake. And I started looking into the art thing seriously. And that's when I came across, like, I really dove into like DeviantArt for the first time. I'd heard of it, but I'd never really looked at it. This would be like 2009. Halfway through my degree in computer science, I'm diving into DeviantArt, and I come across Dave Raposa and Dan Luvisi. They were the two, and they were just starting to do some awesome things. And Dave Raposa was starting up his Crimson Daggers study group that had been around. I think it was starting right as I started sort of found him, and he was streaming on, I think it was livestream.com. I don't know if you guys remember that site. It was a really old one. I think it was livestream.com.
Yeah, that was, I think, Sam Peterson and like John Silva and Forrest Immel were on that back in the day.
Right. Yeah. So I was kind of lurking. I remember seeing John Silva. I don't think I was lurking at the same time. Forrest got into things a bit. I don't know. His name started popping up a lot eventually. Especially, I remember his name popping up on Imagine FX forums. I remember spotting Forrest on the Imagine FX forums. Oh, Royce even streamed on livestream.com. Yeah, so I came across Dave, and that's when I realized, like, I've been looking at, the fine art. I think doing fine art at college really sort of messed up my perceptions of what a career in art would look like. I never put it together that the guys doing the illustrations in Warhammer books that was their career. But then once I found Dave and I found all these people grinding towards it as a career, I thought, it suddenly all clicked. I thought, people do that. People do this for a living. So yeah, I finished while I was scraping by my computer science degree, like literally just doing the bare minimum I needed to do. I decided to put the rest of my time into grinding the same stuff that they were grinding in the Crimson Daggers, like Andrew Loomis PDFs. They were big. Master studies, tons of master studies. Did a load of that. Yeah, and I was just modeling those guys. I didn't have any other advice.
And what about for the business angle? When did you start making money? When was it your primary breadwinning from art? When you switched over eventually from computer science?
Well, that took quite a bit of time. So when did I finish? I think 2012. I think I finished my degree, and from then until at the end of 2013, I didn't know what I was doing. Unemployment for a bit, temporary jobs, bumbling around. Didn't really know what I was doing, and I was still practicing my art, but I wasn't good enough to get any sort of work. And then an IT job came up back in the Falklands. So I went and I applied for that, and I got it. So I went and did IT for 2 years, roughly, in the Falkland Islands. The whole time I was, wishing I was working as an artist, but I was trying to improve. And those 2 years did grind on a bit, and I got fed up. Oh, there he goes. I got fed up with the IT. And from there, I decided to quit my job, head back to UK, try and do the art thing seriously. Like, build a portfolio. Like I think I didn't have much confidence before, but doing, working IT, it just gave me, like, I know what life is like not doing the art thing, and I know I need to be doing the art thing. So now I need to give it a proper shot. So I think end of 2015, back to UK, bumbling around again for about 6 months, firing off portfolios, not getting anything, trying to do commissions, like however I could find them, DeviantArt, job forums, Upwork, just anywhere that I could find for freelancing. And I remember the big event that came through for me was I sent my portfolio to Pox Nora, which were a digital card game. I don't know if some people might have heard of it. Mostly, they might have seen the art. It was like Sony's attempt at Magic the Gathering. It didn't go well, so then they sold that, or something like the studio broke free of Sony, and they kept that IP with them, and they tried to keep it going. But anyway, so they were doing digital cards, and they paid me £900 for two. And at that time, I was like, that's okay. I could do that. I could live on that. 900 quid for 450 quid. It's like $600 for a card. I was like, if I could get that regularly, I could survive. They didn't give me that regularly, but it was the thing that sort of kickstarted me into starting to be able to ask for a bit more money, and be a bit more aggressive, I guess, with pursuing opportunities. And then Upwork actually did come through for me for a bit. I met a guy who he was doing he wanted to do a game project, but he needed concept art, and he wanted it to be kind of illustrative. He wanted it to look good to show people trying to get some money invested, basically. So it was kind of like it was like illustrative concept art idea. He was an amateur. He was awesome, but he was it wasn't like a big production, But that gave me enough work every month just to scrape by. So that's kind of how I got started. It was Pox Nora, and then that guy on Upwork, and just meeting a few people, places like Upwork, RPG.net forums, Board Game Geek. I met a guy on Board Game Geek and did some board game stuff. That's how I kind of got started. Yeah, and the cold emailing art directors and just trying to get noticed at all. Yeah.
So there's one thing I'm kind of in the privy to that our audience might not know, is that you had actually moved to Thailand in order to sustain yourself financially while working as an artist. Could you talk about how that move happened?
Yeah. So because I was scraping by, I was like, well, in order to increase what I'm earning, I have to build a better portfolio. I have to build more clout, basically. I need to do a lot of things in order to try, to get into the upper echelons of pay. Or I could just move somewhere cheaper. And it's like I'm earning more money instantly. So I decided I'm going to do both. But obviously, if I move, then that's immediate. And I started looking at, because I was in Bristol in UK, and right next door is Wales. And Wales is much, much cheaper. And I thought, if I'm going to move Wales, that's kind of like moving country. So then I thought, what if I do actually go to Europe? And then I thought, what if I go anywhere? And that led me down the rabbit hole of looking at the digital nomad thing. Chiang Mai, Thailand was like just number one over and over again for digital nomads to get it. It's like a good standard of living for it's cost effective, basically. Chiang Mai, Thailand is really cost effective. And so yeah, I moved there. I was there for 3 years, and I was spending about the same amount of money every month as Bristol, but standard of living was just, the weather was awesome, the food way nicer, didn't have to cook anything ever, didn't have to do my laundry ever, had my own apartment in the middle of a really hip neighborhood. Yeah, it was yeah, it's pretty pop.
So that's where I first came across you. You were streaming on Twitch, and I had only relatively recently found my way into Twitch and streaming, and I was like, oh, here's a guy that's got it figured out. Fucking got this sweet gig in Thailand doing all this awesome art for, freelance illustration. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the model. This guy's got it. And then you threw it all away. Things changed. I'll fast forward a little bit from when because you were streaming for quite a while on Twitch. So jumping ahead, you stopped streaming and you started getting into some new territory. Can you talk about that for a little bit? what have you been doing since you stopped streaming? And you also you stepped away from like commissions, and are you still doing freelance illustration in any way?
I still pay my bills mostly with commissions. Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of D&D repeat clients. Yeah, I still try to minimize my bills as much as possible because that gives me the space to work on these things that I'm working on at the moment. Yeah, so the two main things. The first thing I jumped into was the blog, but I know you want to talk about that later. Something I've been recently looking at is the Cryptoart thing.
Yeah, we want to talk about both because they're both very interesting things, the blogging and the blockchain. And so you've gone down the road quite a bit. It's relatively new by your own admission, but you've gone further than probably most people that are in our circle are going to, be familiar with. This idea with blogging is really interesting for a whole set of reasons, because people think of blogging and they think that that's like a dustbin of the internet. That's a dead art. And you convinced me that it's far from it. But the thing that's going to be the least familiar to people is this idea of blockchain. People have this awareness of what it is and Bitcoin inflation, and there's a whole number of things that I think people confuse and conflate with like what the blockchain is and what it does.
Yeah.
And the fact that it now has a connection to art is then another layer of obscurity.
People are kind of comparing it with the traditional fine art market, which I think a lot of freelancers, especially entertainment industry, making art, that has to meet certain sort of parameters. A lot of people don't quite. They think this is some sort of money laundering scheme.
Right. Yeah. So to start with, let's do like a quick crash course, if we can, on like what is blockchain. I think that's the first thing that we need to kind of underscore and get clear.
Okay, I'm going to have to do my best as a bit of a layman, trying to put this in. I've been really submerging myself for about a month, but I had gone into crypto. I tried it in 2017. You remember when that crazy bull run happened and just Bitcoin just rocketed up? Because I was in Chiang Mai at the time, and I was surrounded by people who were in crypto, and they've been in crypto for years. I was actually rubbing shoulders with some crypto millionaires, and I had no idea. Only found out after the fact. So I do have a little bit of knowledge about it. So I think the best way, if you're familiar with torrenting, if anyone's ever torrented a file before, uTorrent, I think that's quite similar to a blockchain, because how torrenting works is it's like decentralized file sharing. The file is hosted on multiple people's computers. They're all acting as seeds, and they're passing this file around between them. Peers are interacting with those seeds in order to get the file. A blockchain works kind of similarly. You have it's a network of computers, and each one is kind of like a seed in torrenting. So I'm not sure if does that help anybody?
Yeah, and if the NSA is listening, I just want them to know that I have never illegally downloaded or torrented anything. I just met this guy Chris 5 minutes ago. I don't know what he's talking about.
But seriously though, even Blizzard Entertainment uses torrenting to share the patch downloads, so it's no longer a centralized download. It's
exactly
distributed. But in this case, it's the distribution is the keeping track of identity for the who owns the Bitcoin, for example, right? It's not just sharing the Bitcoin through everybody sharing it. It's keeping track of who has what Bitcoin.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. With torrenting, there is no ownership of said torrent, whereas on a blockchain, you can track ownership, which is what now has happened with Cryptoart, the way Cryptoart is possible is with a thing called a non-fungible token, which is an NFT. That's what people call it. And what that is, if you imagine, so if a Bitcoin, okay, I'm going to try and explain it. Bitcoin are fungible tokens because one Bitcoin could be exchanged for another Bitcoin. They're the same. They're effectively identical. An NFT could not be, so one piece of art couldn't be swapped for another piece of art. They're not identical. So and one NFT, one non-fungible token, could not be swapped with another non-fungible token. So if you imagine that an NFT is like a Bitcoin of which there is only, it's a Bitcoin, it's like a cryptocurrency of which there is only one. And if you were to mint a limited edition of 10 NFTs, that's kind of like a cryptocurrency of which there's only 10. You see what I mean? I think that's the easiest way to think about it. If you imagine it's like a mini currency, it's a mini cryptocurrency that's limited in size.
Can I interrupt you before we go too much further down that? Because there are a couple of things that I would like to clarify for the sake of the uninitiated audience. That there is a distinction between a coin, like a cryptocurrency, a coin, and the blockchain itself. The block, it's kind of like all dollar bills are money, but not all money is dollar bills. So all crypto coins stem from a blockchain, but not all blockchain is like, say, Bitcoin or the crypto. And there's many potential uses for the blockchain structure that has nothing to do with the currency in itself. I really want to underscore that explicitly.
Yes, the chain is keeping track of everything, and
well, in the chain,
it keeps track of anything. It doesn't have to keep track of money. It keeps track of these tokens.
The original application was currency, but now with this new application, NFTs has arisen. Yeah. And it uses the blockchain, but the NFTs they're not literally currency. No.
And so this has awesome implications for artists in general. Well, yeah, artists in general, but digital artists specifically, I think, or like even like more in particular, digital artists, we've always sort of confronted this issue of there being like no original. A digital copy or a digital file is by definition copyable, and therefore it lacks the unique thumbprint of an original piece of art. Now, and I'll let you step in again on taking this up. Now this kind of like, this adds the possibility for digital art to have its own uniqueness. How are you taking advantage of that? How do you see that playing out?
Well, I mean, firstly, I think it should be stressed that this is not just going to work for digital art. If you dig just a little bit, you're going to find there's musicians, there's writers, all tying their stuff to an NFT. And yeah, how it works is you've got a digital file tied to the NFT. They're sort of bound together. So someone could copy the digital file, but it wouldn't have the NFT attached to it, the token attached to it, which is kind of like someone, Pete Moorbacher's Angelarium prints. You could get hold of a high-res, print one off, but it's not signed by him. It doesn't have a certificate of authenticity. So you can't resell that for the kinds of prices that you could probably resell an authentic Angelarium print. And it's it's the same idea, really. It's running on the same idea. So yeah, I'd say that it's not just art that this thing is hitting so much stuff. There's a project, NBA Top Shot. I don't know if you've come across NBA Top Shot. It's mind blowing. It's kind of like baseball cards, but digitized NBA video clips, and that thing has just skyrocketed. We're talking millions a day in trade volume already, and it's only been around a couple of months. That thing is just.
Can you explain more of what that is? Because that sounds like it has a descriptive value that is relevant here.
Okay, so basically what NBA Top Shot has done, they developed their own blockchain first of all, which means that they can. It's not tied to any other cryptocurrencies or anything. And what they've done is they've made booster packs essentially. You pay $9, which was the price it is for pack now, and you get 3 little video clips of moments that have happened in NBA, like a dunk by LeBron James, or an amazing pass that, I don't know. I don't watch NBA.
Right.
And so when you open a pack, you get 3 of these random little video clips. Some are much more rare than others. If you want to try and get the first edition out of 1,200 for one particular moment, one particular video clip, that one will be worth more to other collectors because it's the first edition. So what's going on there is you get these little packs, and then there's a secondary market on the website where you open these packs, where you get these moments where other collectors, other people that open the packs are like, oh, I would like to purchase that off you, because just like baseball cards, I think some baseball cards go for millions now, right?
Yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah. I think a lot of this new age of digital collectors, they can see that eventually these things will be going for millions as well.
Or that's the hope, at least.
It is indeed. And already these things are being sold between collectors for hundreds of thousands. Not the rarest ones are going for hundreds of thousands. Most will be going for like $5. But if it's a very high profile player, and it's the first edition of only like 1,000 of this, like really massive moment in NBA, those things are going for like thousands.
This sounds a lot like gambling to me, with a secondary market.
So I can't imagine. It's speculation. You
buy the pack for $9 and you don't know what's in it. It could be worth nothing.
Yeah, it's the same business model as Magic Gathering.
Yeah, the same could be said for any other collector's market. There's
right, but this is just tied to sports already, which is already gambling focused. So this is just one more additional rung of gambling on top of. The thing is with baseball cards, traditional baseball cards, you could actually have the physical item. Now we just have the idea that this token for this video is somehow worth something, and it just sounds like a lot of people with a lot of money that are really bored and want to find ways to spend their money to show how big their collection is.
Yeah, but you've described water as wet. That's like
in some ways, I can see. Yeah, I can see what you mean. But with a lot of these things, that when you purchase something for something that's rare for a certain price, that becomes its floor. That's now the price of it. So the next person who wants to buy it off you has to pay more than that. That's how a lot of this sort of investment works. That's how you buy a banana taped to a wall. You pay however much that thing went for. If someone wants to buy that banana off the purchaser, they're going to have to pay more money. If you were to hold that money, the value of your currency would have gone down. But if you were to purchase a piece of art with that money, there's a very good chance that you're going to get more value out of it. So I think a lot of these people, they do have too much money. They've got more money. They're just trying to diversify their portfolios, basically. Yes. They're like, I'll diversify into collectible digital assets.
Yeah, the art world is much the same. I mean, the argument can be made that there are areas of the art world where the same thing is happening. People with too much money are sort of like using the art world as a platform to flex.
Yeah, so we can get into that a whole lot with Daria. I know she has tons of thoughts on it. She was on the inside with the banana taped to the wall thing. So in a few weeks we can get to her on that.
Yeah, fair enough. So there's another area that I would like to investigate a little bit more for clarification. So this idea of a blockchain being a distributed network, even that might be a little bit elusive for some people. So this is everybody that is on the network. You have a computer, you're connected within a network that oversees any given blockchain system. You have to be on that network for that blockchain and any tokens that are created as a result of that blockchain existing, you have to be on that network to take advantage of it. That's correct?
What do you mean by on that network? You have to have a wallet. You need to. You have to. So if you're using the Ethereum blockchain, which is what a lot of these Cryptoart platforms used, because it's one of the oldest, it's one of the first blockchains with real application. It's probably the second most popular blockchain because Bitcoin would be the most popular, but the application of Bitcoin is hard to find. Ethereum has real application. And yeah, in order to interact with it, you need to get a wallet, a crypto wallet, which is a bit like a PayPal account for cryptocurrency.
So then, if I want to utilize Ethereum, or I want to utilize any application that Ethereum is being used for, the Ethereum blockchain, not the Ethereum coin, the Ethereum blockchain, anything that is being used for, have to be on that, connected to that Ethereum network. So when it comes to buying and selling art pieces that are represented or connected, have tokens associated with them, then you have to be on the network that blockchain is using, correct?
Now, that depends on the platform, and I think this will improve in time. Some platforms, you do need to have an Ethereum wallet already. You will get paid in Ethereum. A lot like Super Rare is one of the big ones, and they run fully on Ethereum. But other platforms like Maker's Place, which is where Pete Moorbacker is, and that's where I've got some stuff as well. Maker's Place, you don't need to have an Ethereum wallet. You don't need to understand cryptocurrency in order to purchase there. You don't need to understand in order to sell there either. They will actually create a wallet for you. And you can also, people can pay in fiat with a debit card with PayPal, and they will just transfer straight through to your PayPal.
Okay.
So,
no, sorry, go ahead if you want to finish that.
I was just going to say, most platforms, you do need to have some understanding of Ethereum or cryptocurrencies in general, but more platforms are sort of starting to remove that barrier. Like that's why NBA Top Shot has just blown up, because you don't need to understand crypto at all. They've hidden the crypto element and the blockchain from the user.
This is yeah. Sorry, I'm just, full disclosure, I'm super giddy and excited about this whole concept, so it's like hard for me to, as hard as it is to contain myself from talking over people usually, it's even more so now. So that's great. Like I don't have to own any cryptocurrency at all to go to Maker's Place and buy a print of Christopher Cant's artwork and be able to say, this is the only copy of this artwork that anybody will be able to own. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah, you could go to Maker's Place. I think I have 2 pieces that are one of one. Like there's only one that will ever be minted of that art. And you could purchase it, and you would be the only person in the world to own that token, and you would be able to resell it probably, as long as I increase my brand. I work on my brand over the years. You probably would then be able to resell that art for more than you purchased it for.
So immediately people are going to be saying, but it's a digital file. Even after all of this talk about blockchain and crypto and whatnot, I'm still left with the fact that it's a digital file. How do you assure me that this is actually really the only one that exists like it?
Because, well, in order to do that, you would have to have some understanding of blockchains, because everything on a blockchain is transparent. You can see who owns what. You can see where a token was minted. You can see it was minted by me, which is basically my signature. You can see where it was sent, how much for. You can track everything on the blockchain. So the only really way to be 100% sure would be to know a bit of blockchain goodness, so you could figure it out. As far as, does that then have more value to you than just any random JPEG, the same JPEG but not minted on a blockchain. I mean, that's going to come down to your own individual tastes. It's just like, Supreme, the brand Supreme, like that doesn't have any more value to me than any other brand. But for some people, for some reason, Supreme is, I got to have me some Supreme. I got to pay crazy money for a brick with Supreme printed on it.
Yeah.
So I think that's just going to come down to you as an individual, and it's going to be hard to explain to someone, why it's important, or it's going to be very hard to change their mind without them just seeing something that speaks to them and going, "Oh, now I get it," I guess.
On the practical level, what are these quote unquote originals and quote unquote limited editions of the tokens selling for?
Sorry, what was that? Enzo was clarifying something in the chat and I got distracted.
No worries. So what are they selling for? What's an original selling for, or what's a limited edition of like 1 to 10 of these copies being sold for?
For massive amounts of money. I've got a little. I'll put a link in the chat just to show you the kind of things that are going on. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars
for each one, or total?
No, for some individual pieces, we're talking hundreds of thousands. It's crazy. Let me link
of art.
Yeah,
digital art.
Yeah, a piece of digital art. Most of it would be animated stuff. For some reason, animated things, because it's uniquely digital. People
Do I want
really,
to ask
really
what the animation, what the content of that animation is?
It's not. It's not.
While Chris is linking something into chat, I wanted to address the clarification that Enzo was making in the chat. For whoever is confused, the quote minting that Chris is talking about means putting up the artwork for sale and uploading it to the blockchain. So it's minted in the sense that you've already created the art. It's almost, so now using the parallel of actual minting.
Yeah,
I have
you're minting that token. The non-fungible token is what's being minted, just like a coin.
Right. Well, so just to take the time to draw like an actual analogy with like a reality that people might have some familiarity with, you create the artwork. See that as somebody actually carving the etching of the block that's going to print money. Now you put your artwork up onto a blockchain, and it gets quote stamped with one of these tokens. That in essence is now you have taken the etching of the money, the currency, and you have printed a dollar bill. And now you have like, is that like does that sound? Maybe this was a bad analogy, because now it comes off like I'm saying that I'm printing money by like by printing digital pieces of artwork, but it's that like connection between like you've made one thing and then you've now associated it with its real world application.
Yeah, I would say, I really think the closest thing would be creating your own mini currency. And I know most people in the real world would not create their own tiny currency, but that currency only has value if other people desire it, and you have to build the brand of that tiny. It's like a one coin currency, and you're trying to build history into this little currency, which is your brand. And so the more people desire that one coin, that's the only coin that exists in this one coin currency, the more people desire it, the more they're willing to pay to own it. I pasted that link. You can see there's lists of the best performing artists on the main platforms. That's just the main Cryptoart platforms. There's smaller ones, even quite big ones, but they're just not on here, and it hasn't been factored in. So this is not by all means comprehensive numbers, but you can click through and see what individual pieces are selling for on this big list of artists.
So what about for smaller artists, like who haven't yet made it big? What are they get? So the artist gets the first cut, and after that, it's the resellers who will get the bigger amounts as the artist grows in popularity. So let's say Chris Cant right now you're not world famous, but in 30 years, whoever bought your stuff early that gave you that money directly, they then sell that money for profit. You don't see anything from it. But right now, what do you get from how much do you, someone of your level, get from these sales?
Okay, so right now is a very strange time to try and jump into this because Ethereum is going bonkers. Um, I don't know how deep you want to get into how a lot of these platforms being built on Ethereum has quite big implications for how the scene is doing right now. But so basically, when I got into it, Ethereum was valued at around $700 when I just started about a month ago. And I put some pieces on. What did I put on? I put on one painting, edition of 10, and it was about $250 per edition. So in total, that would be 2,500 if I sold them all. And I put another one on, edition of 5, and they were $150. That's because the painting took me less time to finish. So it was $150 per edition. And I put another one on, there was a 1 of 1, and that was priced at around, I think it was 1 Ethereum at the time, which was like 600, 700 bucks. And what happened within like 3 days or so, 4 days, is one of the $250 editions got snapped up by another artist just because he liked the piece. He's already made some sales, and he just liked the painting, and he bought my first edition of that. I got an offer on the 1 of 1 for $400, which was just under 2/3 of the price, and I rejected that because it wasn't quite enough for me for that painting, because I know how much time I put in, and I just felt like that didn't quite justify my hours. And that same, after I rejected, he went on and bought the first one of the 5 edition piece. So in total, I made $450 in a few days, right off the bat in the first week. And I thought, this is amazing. Just to jump in to a scene, no one knows who I am, put up some stuff, and I make $450 right then and there. I thought, this is incredible. But unfortunately, then the Ethereum bull run went bonkers. And with that, transaction fees for Ethereum went through the roof. And at the moment, only the really big established artists can sort of justify the crazy transaction fees, because the way that these platforms are so tied to Ethereum, it means that when Ethereum gets really busy, transaction fees go up. Any sort of transaction, like minting a new piece of artwork, selling a piece of artwork from one person to another, transaction fees go up for that. So at the moment, you're looking at about $100 plus per transaction. So to mint a piece of art and then to sell it would be 2 transactions. So it's very prohibitive for anyone who's just getting started and can't command thousands on these platforms. It's very hard to get anything going right now. So we have to wait for that bull run for Ethereum's, crazy activity. We need to wait for that to calm down, really, before getting stuck into these platforms.
Okay. So do you think that Ethereum is going to be the benchmark for this into the future, or they're going to be like newcomers?
No, there's new platforms that are using different blockchains already in the last couple of months since Ethereum started rising up in price. I've been experimenting with one called Paras.id, which is a really fun little format. It uses a completely different blockchain with much smaller fees. The fees are tiny. It's like 0.001 of a cent or something in order to do a transaction. And I put some stuff up and instantly sold 2 of them. I think they're hardcore collectors. As soon as a card appears, they like just buy it. And that was about $50 for those 2. So I don't, there's Wax. Wax is another blockchain that a lot of NFT stuff is happening on. There's lots of other platforms popping up because of Ethereum. They're popping up, and these platforms, that people are migrating to them. There's smaller artists like me. and migrating to them.
So after you got those sales at those prices of $150, $250, what is that worth for you now? Or did you cash out already?
Okay, so the $150 one, he paid with debit card. So I got the 150 to my PayPal. The $250, I got paid in Ethereum, and I held on to that, except for I used a bit to mint another piece of art, and that was like $30, so that was quite expensive. But I held on to that, and that it's doubled roughly in value. It goes up and down, but it's roughly doubled in value, just under, I think, just by holding that Ethereum.
So I think that there's an interesting thing happening here in chat. First of all, Moose is back talking us right in front of our faces. Feel very offended by this, Moose.
Wow, Moose.
Listen, I'm biting my tongue because this is going to be on recording, and I don't want those things I'm thinking to be on the recording. So we can either do this right now or we can do it later. But
I do just because your input is valuable. I'm not like in seriousness. I'm not like shitting on what you're saying. It's valuable to hear the question marks going off. Because in chat you said, and again, I'm not trying to call you out. You said in response to, oh shit. Well, anyway, you said
I can do it. Okay.
Yeah, you do it. I'm sorry.
Okay. So Autumn, who was a previous guest on our thing, was saying that he really hopes that this takes off. He can see how it adds value to the digital art market and lets people sell things. And I'm all for that. Like, the entire point of this podcast is helping artists make more money. That's the bottom line, right? My personal thoughts is this is the supreme stuff that Chris was saying earlier, where he doesn't see any value in it. I personally don't see it. He doesn't see any value in the Supreme logo. I don't see any value in the Supreme logo. I also don't see any value in the digital token, saying this is my digital token. This is my copy of this file. This one is the unique one. Because the thing you used to create it was a PSD file, right? So that's the original file as far as I'm concerned. And that's on your computer. And if you make a copy of that, that copy is the copy. And it's not the original. The original is on your computer. It'll always be there. Unless you somehow lose that hard drive or whatever. But I don't see the value in saying, quote unquote, this one is the original JPEG, when it wasn't even probably in the original JPEG. It's not actually an original. You're just creating a token that's the original, and you're saying this token is associated with this original art piece. I don't see the value in it. But hey, so many of our friends are digital artists. If they can find a way to make an extra buck off a bunch of people that have too much money, please do. That's the bottom line of this. I don't like when Chris sent me a DM one morning. I woke up and I looked at my phone and he said he sold one. I was like, cool, you got some money off a bunch of morons. Congratulations. And I didn't mean it sarcastically or angrily.
Yeah, I thought you were being rude. I thought you were being really mean to me.
No, I was thinking, good, you got money from people who don't need it. That was my general thought. And then I went back to sleep. And then Chris was like, oh, you were really mean. What? I didn't know. No, seriously. Take the money from the people who don't need it. Screw them. I don't care about those people. You're my friend. You take their money. Good. But as far as whether or not it has value, I don't believe it.
And that is a legit objection. I have a thought on that, but I definitely want to hear what Chris has to say. I just want to say that I have a thought.
But I would assume that you don't put much value in rarity in general in that case, because I'm not much of a collector. I don't care about Rolex watches just because it's a Rolex. Like, it's just not the way I operate. But these people do care. Lots of people do care, and I think that might be the key difference.
Well, if it's like an original traditional painting, sure, I can see that having more value than a photo of it. That's fine. But if we're saying a limited edition print, and you're saying that at this size there's only 10 of them, I can believe that. But now we're saying this file is only one of 10 files that I deem as legitimate or limited edition, when it's equally as of a file of an image as anything else that's been out there that's of that same dimensions, that same resolution.
But
You say
it's
it's
not.
not fungible, but I believe it is.
But it's not though, because it has that digital token.
The token is non-fungible.
Yeah,
The
it is,
image
But that
is not.
token, but the token and the art are now inseparable. So just in the
If you
sense
think
that
they are, if I don't think they are, then
No,
they're
but
not to me.
no, but okay, but I'm not trying to like convince you otherwise. I'm just trying to say that it's in the same way that you can paint a completely convincing replica of the Mona Lisa. Ultimately, you've painted a replica of the Mona Lisa, and it's not that. The Mona Lisa is in the Louvre. It's signed by Da Vinci. It's all of the
Ironically,
things.
the Mona Lisa itself is thought to maybe be a copy.
Well, the point though is that like an original painting, and Chris, we're going to get back to your interview. This isn't going to devolve into an argument
this is
between me and
important.
Chris.
No, this is fine. We can talk about this. Only have Chris for a limited amount of time. If we want to go about this for between me and Joby, we can do that all fair. But I've said my piece, and you're not going to change my mind. So we can just move on and not.
That's fine. That's fine. I won't try and convince you, just for the sake of the people listening, and not to get the last word in, but just to establish that point.
Just to get the last word in. Got it.
Okay. Yes. Just to establish the point that, like, yes, replicas can be made. No one is going to debate that. No one is saying that this like eliminates the possibility for a replication to be made, but it establishes a distinct difference between an original and a replication.
To me, this sounds more like back when the RIAA was going off on Napster. Like, you wouldn't download a car, would you? No, it's the same thing. You're getting a copy of a file, and they're equally the same, and you both have one. It doesn't make one more less valuable than the other. The only thing that's unique in being transmitted is the token. The token has value. The file does not. It's the idea of the token that is getting the value. And again, like I said, if for artists, please take advantage of this. I want you to make money. I want you to be happy. You're getting underpaid, so this is a way for you to get paid more. Please take advantage of it.
This is perfect for the next question. Chris, do you find yourself ever in the role of educator? And do you actively seek out conversations to try and sort of like spread some awareness about this, and not convince the mooses of the world, but to make counterpoint to some of the objections or concerns that people might have?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm finding myself this past month, I'd be submerging myself in Cryptoart Twitter, which is amazing. It's so cool. They're such positive people, and they're so excited. It's quite a small community, but they see the future and they're running at it, and it's awesome. And I find myself submerging myself in that, and then going back to my Discord, and just, I'm excited about it, and I just like, look at this thing I found, and then people will pop up saying, oh, this is is this money laundering? Is this it sounds like people with too much money, they're just throwing it around. Does this really have value? So I do find myself trying to convince people, and I've convinced a few, but it takes a long time. It takes repeated exposure to the idea. You got to keep bashing people over the head with it until they finally give in and dig into it. And I think once they do their own looking into it, quite often they are convinced. Moose is a stubborn man.
Well, he's very intelligent. We'll give Moose the credit that he's due.
It reminds me of like sneakers. There are people who collect sneakers, and that's great, and they're worth thousands of dollars. I don't know why, but they are, and it's a huge hobby. People love it. That's great for them, but it's not for me. That sneaker is worth $60 to me. To them, it's worth $60.
What I would kind of relate it to would be like a musician. You can listen to their work on Spotify, it's free. But you could, if they release like a limited edition vinyl, some people are just going to snap that up instantly, even though they might not even have vinyl players. They can't even do anything with it. They're just going to see value in its rarity. It's not about listening to the music. It's about owning. It's about having a part of the story of the musician. and it's sort of like an investment piece. This will probably go up in value over time. I don't think it's really about. You're right. It's not really about the file at all. It's about that token, and I think it's a similar thing to, all kinds of creators releasing limited edition stuff, and Bambay snapping it up because they want to be part of it, not necessarily because the practicality of the thing.
Yeah,
Right.
all of this is perceived value. Like all of this is made up. Money is made up. Money is purely conceptual, but we all agree on the concept. And so this is just a thing where people are agreeing, yes, this has value. I agree that this is awesome and I want it. With the sites that, go ahead, what were you gonna say?
So I think there's a way to wrap this up and move it into the next topic of Chris's blog, and that is, so a lot of people in chat, especially Ali, just specifically, said she's having a hard time wrapping her head around all of this. She's gonna have to rewatch it again. But you have a blog. Do you have an article on this yet, or is this something that you could write up and like do a beginner's idiot's guide to Cryptoart and everything?
I wrote one about a month ago, right as I was getting into it, as I was just, because it was a very layman's point of view. It was just literally what I'd figured out over that week or something. I do definitely plan on writing many, many more articles about it. The problem is that this thing is so new that I know it's not going to bring in very much Google traffic. So when I'll be writing purely for excitement, I guess, excitement's sake, and to explain things to my Discord community and people like Ali. So yeah, my blog is selfemployedartist.com, all one word. It's going pretty well.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hiccup it and make the transition lame because Moose did make it
All right,
super
I'm gonna
smooth.
go pee.
Okay. But there was one more question about copyright, and this had been brought up in chat like way back a while ago.
Yeah.
Are you giving up any copyright or ownership of this when you do this?
No, it depends on the contract of the platform, but nearly all of these platforms, they are you don't give up any rights at all. Just like if you were selling a print, or if you even painted an oil painting, if you sold that oil painting, the buyer wouldn't get the rights to the image. The artist still keeps rights to the image, and it's the same. It's the same principle.
Okay, fair enough.
A visual nomad also asked if the link between the piece and the token can be broken by a hacker. No, I don't think there's ever been a case of a blockchain having any sort of forgery or being hacked or anything.
Yeah,
I don't think it's ever happened.
And to understand why that is, it goes back to the idea of blockchain being a distributed network. So if you wanted to hack a particular item on the blockchain, you would have to quite literally hack every single computer that was connected to that network simultaneously. Yeah. And when you're talking about something like the Ethereum network, you're talking about hundreds of millions of computers.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
And it'll only keep growing as more and more people use Ethereum and more and more people work as validators. Yeah.
So every single go ahead.
Sorry, carry on.
Every single computer on that network has awareness of every single thing that's happening on that network. So if you try and hack the token that Chris has minted a piece of his artwork with, everybody knows about it. It's just I don't even know what a proper analogy is, but not going to happen, I don't think.
The closest thing is torrenting. It's the closest thing I've ever found to blockchain. Yeah, but even that doesn't come close.
So now that Moose is back, perfect. Back to your blog. When you've started a blog, is that's an interesting thing to hear about just in itself. We've sort of like come full circle on blogs where they were this cool, innovative thing 20 years ago. They became something that your grandma did, and now you're making them cool and innovative again. What is it? What is it that drew you to blogging?
Sorry to interrupt. On your tweet, you said it was cutting edge business models. And I was like, I'm going to talk about blogging.
That's
is
why
that cutting edge?
that's why I wanted to lead
Cutting edge?
that's why I wanted to lead with the blockchain and the crypto art, because that is cutting edge. The blogging, in seriousness, I think that it's not innovative in the sense that like nobody knew about it until you discovered it. There's a proven business model here, but lots of people may not be aware of it. When you told me about it, I was kind of a little bit shocked. So tell us a little bit about what piqued your interest in blogging, and how did you figure out that there was still like a viable business model here? What does that look like?
Okay, so I would say, I said I was in Chiang Mai and I was around a lot of people who were digital nomad types. They were all making money online in various ways, and a large number of them had blogs and their own websites. Quite a large number of YouTubers, a lot sold courses. And that's when I guess the idea, I was like, oh, I didn't know blogging was, profitable. I thought that died off. Blogging is dead, as they say. And I was freelancing, and I was around all these people who had these blogs and YouTube channels, and noticing that I seem to be doing a lot more work for a lot less money than some of these people, and really thinking, okay, I need to figure out something more scalable. And passive income is the hot trendy term for it. But I need to figure out something more scalable than just exchanging my time for an hourly rate. And that's why I started streaming, not because I knew it would be passive, but because it was going to be more scalable, because at least I could add, I'd be doing my freelancing as well as getting donations, as well as, building an audience. I just knew it was like trying to find ways to scale. And Twitch didn't seem as intimidating. Twitch seemed really simple, like I could just jump in, just do what I normally do, just with the camera on. Like, okay, I can do that. And that's why I actually stopped streaming, is because I realized like I'm doing this because it's easy. I perceived it to be the easier thing. And I really should be making a website and doing the hard thing, which is either to build a YouTube channel or a website with a blog like all these people are doing. I should be modeling the thing that's worked for them, because I can see that they're traveling and they're working, they're writing occasionally, but most of the time they're sort of boozing it up in the evenings, having a lot of fun, and seem to be making way more money than me. I've lost track of the question.
No, but I think that
you're still on it.
You're still, yeah.
What made you switch from wanting to do creating the art to making things other than art to make money?
Right. Yeah. So I realized like I need to go scalable, and that's why I was streaming, and I was just finding that it wasn't quite getting me where I wanted to go, and I still felt like I was on a treadmill. I was still constantly having to do like more work every month just to make enough to survive. So then I really started looking into sort of passive. They're still talking about NFTs. I started looking into passive business models. Oh man, the chat is too interesting right now, isn't it?
Don't worry, I'll ban everybody so we can continue.
It's fine. No, don't get distracted by it. It's awesome that
I started looking into more passive business models, and I came across a blog called createandgo.com, and they were making ridiculous sums of money. They were making 100 to like 300,000 a month every month, like clockwork. And that really come on, guys. That really caught my eye when I saw that they were making ridiculous money every single month. Because I always thought, the blogging thing wasn't viable. They were obviously proving that it was completely viable.
So what actually now makes you the money on the blog?
Push to talk, Joby.
See, I knew that I get too excited and I was gonna forget it. So what actually makes you money on the blog? I mean, everybody like understands like Google AdSense and Amazon affiliation and that kind of thing. Run it down real quick. Like what does it actually look like?
Okay, so writing articles doesn't actually earn you money. What it earns you is traffic, essentially. And it's quite a long grind. So I'll be completely upfront, and that we've only just started monetizing, but we're actually ahead of schedule. So I'm following, there's a YouTube channel called Income School, and they teach people how to create niche blogs. So blogs about whatever their chosen topic might be, all kinds of blogs. So I'm following their model. And in their model, about a month 11 of blogging is around where you're going to start earning a bit of money. So it's a very long game, and we've been in it, I think this is our 7th month, and we're around where we should be at month 11. So we're doing really, really well for the timeline. So last month was the first time we actually made any money. How it works. So yeah, you're writing the articles to get Google traffic. That's the whole purpose. And then you want to direct that Google traffic toward the thing that they're after. So my articles, our articles, I've actually Sleepy Tron. She's my assistant. She helps me write the articles. So ours are about digital art, freelancing, tablets. So we're answering specific questions on Google about tablets, for example, and then we'll be redirecting people. We'll be giving them some advice on maybe what tablet they should purchase, and then redirecting them to Amazon to make that purchase. But like I say, the goal first is to get the articles up and generating traffic, and then the ones that are working for you, monetize them. So we just put ads on.
When you say working for you,
you gotta push the talk again.
Damn it! Sorry. When you say working for you, what does that mean?
So the articles take a long time to age in. Google basically, when you've written an article, it takes about a month for Google to detect it and then start basically teasing it within the Google search results, and it'll start you off in like page 100 for your main search term. So your exact title, it'll start you off like right at the back, and so you'll get like one impression occasionally, and then it's going to slowly start teasing you in various search results related around the topic that you've written on. So it's trying to figure out where your article should be on Google, how far up the rankings it should be, like how good is it, basically. How do users interact with it? Do they like it? Do they spend 5 minutes reading it, or do they come in and then they're off because it's no good? So it's Google is like testing your article. So how long an article will take to rank, it all depends on the amount of traffic that's searching for it every month. It depends on the competition. So if other people have written, there's tons of really good articles out there about it. Google is going to take a long time to start ranking your article. So at the moment, some of our articles that we've written haven't even started getting traffic. They're too fresh. And some of our very first articles are starting to hit a plateau. They've been gaining traffic, and now they're just starting to max out at what they're going to get monthly. So we're getting about 500-600 visitors a day on the site at the moment. It's pretty cool. Last month, I've written it down. What were we getting last month? Okay, so I've written some brief things. So we started getting traffic in August, and then we got 40 people. In September, it was 800. October, 2,500. And then, this month, 12,500. And we've ended this month at about 600 people a day. And that's coming from some articles. Some haven't even started ranking. Some aren't very good, so Google doesn't like them. Some, there's got no competition, so they're right up at the top. So we've got about 5 articles that are doing like 80% of the work.
Are you doing anything to point the internet, the whole internet, at your blog? Or is it a set it and forget it thing?
It's a set it and forget it thing. The only thing I'm doing is on Discord. I've got a webhook set up for the announcements, so that when I post a new article, Discord will detect that there's a new article and post a link, a new article up on selfemployedartist.com with a like a ping, a role ping for anyone who wants to see the articles. That's the only thing we've got. Other than that, it's all organic Google traffic.
I mean, have you done things to like optimize SEO and all of those typical fancy things that people talk about?
It's 100% SEO. Yeah.
Okay.
So
All right, cool.
yeah.
Which is using terms that people are searching for inside the article and the headers, etc.
Yeah, so it's really important that there's various tools you can use to check search volume, of how often a term is searched. And then there's a few tools you can use to try and analyze the competition for that search term. And what you're really looking for is something that's got high search volume and low competition.
So, if an artist was thinking about doing this, should they? You've made more or less educational blogs. Do you have like a sense of what style of blog is more prone to catching traffic, or is it like, is there a what are your parameters for that?
Definitely educational stuff. I mean, but you want to concentrate on evergreen topics, meaning it's a topic that's it's a query that's gonna stay relevant. So I don't really want to talk about which specific articles are doing well, because Google works the way it does. The number one result gets the most traffic. Number two gets a bit less. So if I tell you which exact articles are doing really well, someone else could just come in and be like, well, just make it better, and you'll automatically have number one position and be stealing my traffic. So,
but in general, the site is educational in nature, and the information that you're giving is actually good information too. It's not like you're just trying to be a snake oil salesman and say, hey, this is how you make a whole lot of money with art, and then just put a bunch of garbage in there. You're actually using viable information inside those articles.
Yeah, that's what will get me up in the search rankings. Because Google's a very smart algorithm, it can assess how the users, whether they like the content or not. It can tell by read time whether they keep coming back to the site. So if they read an article and they enjoyed it, then they might come and check again in a week and see if there's anything new been posted. And that's a good signal to Google that this is quality content. So you definitely, what you want to be doing is you want to be teaching people the things they want to know. So we've just, some of our recent articles are about comparing tablet brands. And we're just trying to be completely upfront and honest about like Wacom versus Huion, and just really tell people the differences and who might prefer a Wacom, who might prefer a Huion, the advantages and disadvantages of each. Yeah, it's about just giving the people the information that they're looking for, and then from there, so you say this kind of person would probably prefer this kind of person would probably prefer that, and you link them over to the thing that they're looking for. Yeah, and you get a small commission off it.
So it goes without saying that you can be as specific or as vague as you want to be as far as actual numbers. But do you have a sense of like how much can actually be made from running a blog? Like do you have long-term projections of, like what the returns will be?
Yeah. So like I said, we just started monetizing. And like our first month, last month was our very first month, and we made $80. So I'm going to be, it's tiny money at the moment. This month is looking about $200. Next month we're going to be hopefully $300 to $400, and hopefully it'll be an exponential increase like that. So last month we just put ads on for the very first time, and they were earning $10-ish per 1,000 people that came through. This month, those ads, the same ads, are earning $13, and that should slowly creep up as, again, that's an algorithm, and it starts to learn what kind of ads perform best on our blog. And on top of that, I started putting a small amount of affiliate links in one article this month, and that produced an extra $40. So that's where part of the income has come from. So as our articles age in and start to get more traffic over time, as new ones start to get traffic, as we publish more articles, and as I start putting affiliate links in each article, we should be able to slowly creep up our income. And long term, the goal is to produce courses and tutorials for the specific articles that are doing well. So one of our articles brings in about 6,000 people a month with a specific query. So I am probably going to end up making a tutorial that deals with that specific query and a bunch of other stuff, a paid tutorial, in order to be able to, link 6,000 people every month to it. It's like hyper-targeted audience for a specific course.
So these numbers that you're saying, I understand that it's just a beginning, but what was the numbers that were driving you to even try this? Because you had done research prior. What were the numbers that made you think, this is viable, this is how much people are making, I want to do that too?
Well, Create and Go was the big one. They sell courses a lot like Justin's from, was it last week? Justin Donaldson was selling like $300 courses. They've got very similar like $300 kind of price mark, and they were making 100,000 a month, 300,000 a month. Really ridiculous. Createandgo.com. Income School, those guys are both millionaires. They own multiple blogs. The amazing thing about blogs is other people can write the articles. Oh, I'm breaking up a bit, sorry. Other people can write the articles. So once you've got extra income from your blog, you can hire more writers. So you can start new blogs. You just plan out which article is going to be written. You got to start new blogs. So it starts becoming this exponential machine.
The silence you're hearing is my head exploding.
Income School on YouTube, and take a look through. There's a community around Income School of other bloggers. Amelia Gardner was one of the first smaller ones that I found. And you start meeting all these like people, they're small-time YouTubers, and they're making thousands a month from their blogs. And once you've got it set up, it's very passive, because the article is written, the people are coming in, you're redirecting them to the place they want to go to. And that just keeps happening in perpetuity until someone else comes in with a better article than you, and you've got to then try and compete with them. But that kind of thing I don't know how often that would happen.
The numbers sorry, go ahead.
So because the work you've done, it kind of exists, it's passive. It's now, once you've set it up, it's doing its thing. It means that, okay, so once I hit about 1,000 a month, that'll cover my monthly expenses, and I can reinvest any extra money into writing, into an editor to make YouTube videos, and it all starts building upon itself. I can take time off writing articles and put time into the courses, and know that 1,000 a month will be coming in anyway while I work on these courses. They can link up into that whole machine, and now people are being sent to the course. You can see it's sort of like it's building blocks. It's like building a house.
Let's talk a little bit about the lead up, or the build up to the blog being something that is going to start drawing in traffic. What was your workload like in the first days of the blog? How much time were you spending on writing the articles and researching and all of that stuff? How long did it take you to get to the point where you're like, okay, now we're ready to have this start generating traffic?
Okay. I'd learned about, Income School around the end of 2019. And then I left Thailand, and there was a whole, I was finishing up some freelance and all that. So I think around the beginning of 2020, I started putting things together, sort of doing research on what articles to write. Sometime around the beginning, like March, and we wrote, and I got Sleepytron on board as well, and I paid her to help me do some a bunch of research, just basically Googling things. We were just Googling stuff and using these keyword tools to figure out their search volume. And then we're trying to, okay, this one's got a good search volume. What's the competition like? So we're just Googling a whole ton of stuff, hundreds and hundreds of things. And our first articles came out 29th of June. So it was, 3-4 months of research about what to write and putting together our very first articles. And that was while I was doing commissions, as well as freelancing. I was doing the D&D stuff. I'm sure you guys are familiar. So how much time was I putting in every day? I tend to be like an all-in kind of guy. So it was normally like 2 weeks straight of 6-8 hours a day, just research and basic writing, and then be back to freelancing for a couple of weeks. So man, it's hard to estimate the time, but it's not easy, and it takes we only just started making money, so it's been a lot of hours put in order to turn it around into something.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to hear about that, because people might have dollar signs exploding out of their eyeballs, and like in the long term, there's a viable source of income, but also be prepared to do the work up front. And there's like a lot of it. It's not just a get rich quick scheme.
Yeah, indeed. I would say if you already have a product, then you could probably, so talking about Justin Donaldson, he's already got courses about gouache and landscapes. I would say if he was to write some articles about gouache and landscapes, then it wouldn't, I don't know, 5 to 10, then he might be able to turn that around into profit fairly quickly. Just because he's already got a product set up that would be perfect for that audience,
So do you have a sense of where the blog should exist? Like, should you have, the blog is the website for you, right? Like that's just, you're not really doing anything else on that website but the blog. Do you have a sense of the pros and cons of having it set up that way, as opposed to attached to a website that an artist might, a personal website that an artist might already have?
Yeah, so I'd say there's two sort of ways to do it. And that would be if you've already got an established thing that you're trying to achieve, like you're an established artist, you've already got some tutorials, you're already making a certain type of art, then attaching a blog to it would be smart, and trying to figure out the right articles to write to bring the right people to your established product. That'd be one way of going about it. And the other way, which is what I'm doing, would be to start with the articles. Just look for the ones that are high demand in your sort of area of interest, things you're interested in. Look for the ones that are high demand and low competition. Bring the people to it, to your blog, and then build on the other elements, like a store, which is what we'll be doing. So you'll be creating products specifically for the audience. So there's a product first and an audience first approach. And with SEA, self-employedartist.com, we'll be doing the audience first approach.
SEO seems so, I mean, I understand it conceptually, but for some reason it seems mysterious to me. Was it similar for you, or did it come naturally to you, or did you do research to kind of figure out, like, okay, how does this actually work? What do I do with this?
It didn't come naturally. I didn't understand it at all. It felt like some sort of, SEO is some weird voodoo thing. But it's fairly simple. It's about trying to be as accurate as you can with your language, basically. You're trying to use the right words to pull in the people that would be interested in the thing that you want to show them. If you have a course, you're trying to bring in, if it's about gouache, you're trying to use the right terminology to bring in people that want to learn about how to use gouache. That's all SEO really is. It's just about being understanding exactly how Google is going to interpret the words you've used. Once you've done it, it's a little easy. You realize it's like, oh yeah, you kind of recognize like this paragraph I've written is misleading to Google. You'll start to recognize this sort of stuff as you practice it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm having the same reaction that people in chat were having when we were talking about crypto, where I feel like a dog watching you do card tricks, where I was like, I see you, I hear the words coming out of your mouth, and then I get lost.
Last like 2 years ago, Chris and I were talking about this, and I was on board. I was like, okay, I'll make a blog, and it'll be about like social media, getting ahead in that stuff. And then I started getting this SEO stuff, and I completely lost all motivation to even go forward with this at all, because I had to change which words I was using that I already written in an article to match things that I had found that are highly searched terms. And it just felt so soulless, tedious, and just obnoxious to me that I had no drive to do it at all. That's why I posted the Google Doc for everything I'd ever learned about Instagram, and gave that away for free, because I just don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, it does take a final pass going over your writing and sort of thinking, is that really you're trying to think, well, what would someone type in Google, even for your subheaders? You're like, if someone was looking for this information, what would they type in Google? Have I written the header in a way that they would phrase the question? Yeah, and it's quite, it's not fun. It definitely isn't fun. You have to read through your writing and make some of it quite soulless. Yeah, you're right.
Well, with that in mind, would you say that, because there are people that make this their job, right? Like they do search engine optimization as their like that's the thing that they do, right? Would it be worth it to hire somebody to do that for you?
Possibly. I think it's not that hard. It just takes a bit of practice, really. I think maybe you would start and you could hire someone to do like your first few and then look at what they've changed. And pretty soon you would pick up on, oh, I see why he's changed this. I think pretty quickly you would pick up on why the language you were using might be misinterpreted by Google and why his language is better. I think,
go ahead.
For your first ones, maybe talking to someone who understands SEO better than you would be great. I think you pick it up really faster.
I guess I'm just thinking about people like, or that sounded bad. People like Moose, because I share a lot of what Moose is talking about, where I just feel like my brain would just start to turn into liquefied goo and seep out of my ears. So people like us, it might not just be as simple as like, oh, okay, I see what they're doing, now I can do that too. But just like, oh my God, that seems just really hard to do for longer than 5 minutes. That might be a place for somebody to do your SEO for you.
Yeah, I think if you find it fatiguing, then yeah, and it probably would. It depends on how expensive Mr. SEO expert is. I don't know how much they would charge. And the problem with it is that they would have to read through your work, which takes time. So I imagine that it wouldn't be, cheap. They're going to have to read through like a 3,000 word article or whatever, 2,000, 3,000 words. Maybe they could just do it really fast. I don't know. I don't know how expensive that would be.
Yeah, that's fair. That SEO optimization people might be something that like Coke does, but maybe small, poor freelance artists don't do that.
I think because a lot of people try writing blog posts and then they find it doesn't get them anywhere and they stop. And I think learning SEO is possibly a big part of that they didn't go out, they didn't write their blog post very SEO friendly. And they can't afford an SEO expert. So I think, I would agree that you would have to put time into learning SEO, learning search analysis to find good topics to write about, and trying to understand the competition that you're up against. So how strong other websites are, whether you could possibly compete with them in a specific niche.
just as an aside, funny story, not really useful to anybody. 4 years ago, I was actually writing a blog, and it was for Project Spark, a game that no longer exists. But we were getting 2 million unique viewers a day. Sorry, a month, not a day. And we didn't know how to monetize it, and Google canceled our AdSense account, so we made no money off of it for like 3 or 4 years of getting 2 million viewers per month. And this is way before I met Chris, obviously. So all that money, I'm thinking, how much could we have made if we actually knew what we were doing?
Yeah,
Don't think about it.
Yeah, I reckon. Well, it depends on. It's a game, right? It was a game. I'm not sure how you would monetize that. So,
at the very least, it was just Google Ads that would have been playing, or what other better ad source than Google? Because we didn't know anything other than any ad sources other than to Google, so we didn't go to anybody else other than Google.
right. How many do you say you get? 2 million unique visitors. So the lowest rates for Zoic, which is the ad network that I'm using, partnered with. The lowest rates would be about $10 per 1,000 people. So at 2 million a month, you would have been looking at some cash just for the ads.
Moving on. Someone in the chat mentioned DuckDuckGo or Bing as other search engines. Do you take that into consideration, or is Google like such the standard that it doesn't even factor in?
I did take a quick look at Bing Webmaster, something like that, and it was nothing. It was a few here and there, and I was just like, okay, forget about that. So I might be getting Bing traffic that I don't know about. It might be significant, but from everybody that I follow, they don't even take notice of Bing traffic. DuckDuckGo, none of it's not. Yeah, Google has such like a stranglehold on the search engine market that it's not worth even worrying about optimizing for other search engines.
This is a pretty random and tangent. Well, it's not tangential, but it just occurred to me. I haven't thought through this question at all, so forgive me. They talk about nationalizing some of these big tech companies, or making them regulating them like public utilities. Has that factored into anything? Like, I mean, does that like is there any like potential for that to pinch the traffic flows to what you're doing, or does that have implications for you at all?
I mean, definitely, yeah. So Google will even update its algorithm a few times. It updates its algorithm like constantly, but it'll have some big updates now and then. There was one in December that was pretty big, and that made our traffic like just a straight line. It didn't grow. We've been growing like crazy for every month before, and then December was just flat line. Basically, it was a bit wiggly, but because of Google's new algorithm update, and now January, that thing's been sorted out. They've done their update, and now it's back off at its trajectory. So any sort of, definitely things can definitely affect Google traffic. Absolutely. I mean, I don't know about regulation. That you just kind of have to take things as they come. I think the good thing is that you can diversify your traffic. So a lot of bloggers will use things like Pinterest, YouTube to direct traffic to the article. So it's smart to try and diversify. Twitter, Instagram, as well. Just try and diversify.
Yeah. So speaking of Pinterest, since you mentioned it, that's a great transition to another set of questions that we had for you, which is all about Pinterest. And you mentioned that to me. This is another thing that you raised my eyebrows when, first was when you mentioned blogs, and then when you described how Pinterest can actually be utilized to help drive traffic for you. What? Pinterest? Like, I mean, this is a place for, people find like recipes and home decoration ideas and stuff. Like, how does that factor into what you're doing?
Okay, so it's actually it's pretty decent for digital art. I don't know if you use Pinterest to get references. I mean, a lot of artists do now, I think.
Yeah, I do. But it's like secondarily. I know that like a lot of people are like, I only use Pinterest boards, but even in that, it's just like they're collecting, they're collecting and hoarding the pictures rather than, like I don't know. I'm wondering where the jumping off point is from. Like, okay, people have Pinterest boards and they hoard pictures to like that translates into traffic flow for you.
It kind of comes down to SEO again. Pinterest also runs off. It's a search engine. It's just it just gives you visual results. You type in words just like you would with Google. It gives you visual results. So what you're trying to do is craft an image that you're trying to pair up your keywords with the image that you're pinning, so that the users will be tempted to click through. So, for example, a decent example is if you have you're selling like reference photos, figure, is it Graphic Studio on ArtStation that has all those reference packs with figures? So what you might do is create a board of figure drawing references, tons of photos, and hopefully you'll start gathering up people that will pin, they'll save pins from that board, right? They'll start building their own little collection of figure drawing stuff. Now Pinterest knows that they enjoy your collection of figure drawing references, and then you throw in a pin now and then that it's like an eye-catching image of a figure drawing thing with a bit of text that says click through for a reference pack. It's now 50% off, something like that, and that would link through to the Graphic Studio, ArtStation. You've got a sale going on or whatever. So what you're trying to do is you're giving people what they want, and then you're saying if you want a bit more of this for a bit of money, you can click through. So you're trying to. The key is to make an image that people want to click, and you have to kind of build up trust with them by giving them the images that they're after, helping them find the images they're after.
So you're creating an image just for Pinterest, as opposed to creating an image or pinning a picture that had been posted elsewhere.
Well, you can do either, but yeah, you would be creating images for Pinterest. That's what we've been doing. Sleepy's been helping me there. She's been making loads of pins. Which she made like 200 pins, something like that.
Do other people do this, or is this just you guys creating your own unique pins for Pinterest? Because I see, like you said, we're talking about using Pinterest for finding references. They're not on there saying, "Hey, do you like this skirt I wore this one time to use as reference?" Well, there's a website where I also wear other clothes. It's usually just the picture of the person wearing the clothes.
Sure. A lot of, I don't know if that example of the reference image with the, 50% sale thing would work. Maybe it would, or maybe I should try it. A lot of this is based on throwing out a ton of pins. Like we pin like 13, 14 times a day. Often it's not like a new pin every single time we pin. Sometimes we'll be pinning, one image to one board one day. A few days later, we'll pin that same image to a different board. That counts as a different pin. And we'll pin each image like 3 or 4 times. So often it's like it's about three pins per day. It averages out to 3 unique images that have been made or pinned from somewhere on the internet. You have to throw a lot of pins out, and you're looking to then check the analytics and see which ones are doing well, which ones aren't. You just learn, like, don't make pins that look like that because they don't get clicks. Make pins that look like this, So you're throwing a lot of shit at the wall, basically.
When you say look like, what do you when you say look like? What is that referring to? So you're not just making pins of like your personal art. Like there's other. What types of things are you pinning?
So you could go to. I could post the. Let me get the link. So we're using stock images that we're pinning straight to the article, basically, the article that's been written. And we're using my art, usually the header art that's been used for the piece, but also stock images that we've just got that seem to be relevant. So that latest one about Cryptoart, it's been loads of images of Ethereum and pictures of Bitcoin, and talking about Cryptoart, why you should be interested, and trying out different titles on the pins, different ways of phrasing it. And then you just throw them all on Pinterest and see which one, follow the analytics, see which one seems to be gaining a bit of traction. And then when we make more pins for the same articles, we'll just look at the data and say which ones don't seem to gain any traction, no one's interested in, which ones seem to be gathering some clicks throughs to the article, and we'll just make them more like that.
So, Joby, I had actually seen the pins that Chris was making, and they are combinations of images, a background flat color, and text. So I guess he's talking about changing the layup around, changing which color he used, changing what style of image was included in the pin as part of the pin, rather than being the entirety of the pin. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I just dropped the link to the Pinterest account in the chat. You can see most of these have been made by Sleepy. They're using stock images. Some of it's my own artwork. Different, just trying out different layouts, different words. So many of these link to the same article, but the way that the text is written is slightly different. Some of them have no text, just to see how well they do.
So, is there anything that would stop somebody from using somebody else's art? You said you use stock art, but is there anything else? People pin things that don't belong to them all the time. It's like almost like the default way of using Pinterest. So, is there anything that would stop somebody from using? You mentioned Pete Warbacher. If you use his pin his Angelarian pieces, and then use that stuff to link to your blog article, is that legal?
I don't know about legal. I don't know, but it's hard to fight it, and I think everyone's doing it. There's a website called Paintable. I don't know if you've seen paintable.cc, and they are all in on Pinterest. I think they're doing quite well from Pinterest. But he just seems to use anyone's art. He doesn't care. He's using Pete's art, and I'm almost 100% sure he has not asked Pete for permission to do that. He's just like, yeah, I'll just do it. If Pete gets in contact and tells me to stop, then I'll stop. But until then, I'll just carry on. And it's working really well for him, I think.
Sorry, I was looking at your Pinterest board while Moose was asking the question, so I forgive me for being repetitive. You guys are talking about using somebody else's art as the stock image that you would then type over and post on your blog, and then connect to Pinterest.
Yeah.
Ooh, that seems shady.
It is naughty. I think it's naughty. Yeah. All of the art we're using is stock, or it's mine. So we haven't used anything that we don't have permission to use. I don't know if we'll cross that line. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say. I don't know.
I mean, it just seems.
Let me grab. Shall I grab Paintable's profile, because they are a good example of people who are doing it really right, and they're doing very well. But you'll be able to see what kind of pins they're making.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, post it in the chat. These are great resources, and all of these links will be in the show notes as well. You posted one when we were talking about the crypto and blockchain thing, and your Pinterest board, and then this one that you're about to pin. They'll all be in the show notes. So if anybody is just being like, "What the hell is going on?" just scroll down to the show notes.
While you're pulling that up, out of curiosity, where did you start learning about Pinterest actually being viable, as opposed to just being a place for people to throw their crap up and forget about it?
From blogs that create and go, they generate most of their traffic that earns them. They're the ones that earn 100,000 up every month. They get most of their traffic from Pinterest, and they teach blogging. They have another site which is a yoga, health food sort of site. So I guess that's how they got into Pinterest, and that's how they figured out how it works. And that's a good niche, because obviously the audience for Pinterest is overwhelmingly female, and food and exercise are really popular on Pinterest. But then they moved over into blogging, which is not particularly suited to Pinterest pins about how to write articles. It's not particularly suited, but they managed still to generate hundreds of thousands of click-throughs on Pinterest every single month.
Yeah, I will say that when right after you told me about Pinterest as a thing, in the I don't know 5-minute conversation that we had about it, or the 5 lines and Discord DMs that we exchanged about it, I took that information and I added a little footer at the bottom of a lot of my website pages with just a scrolling gallery of paintings, and I linked those paintings, or I posted the pictures from that gallery to Pinterest. And I check it every now and then. I check my website, what is it called? Why am I analytics?
Analytics.
And Pinterest is ranking as one of, and this was with very minimal. And from what you've just told me, I did not do it in any sort of optimal way at all. I created a board just for those pictures to go to. It's like a Pinterest board solely for the pictures that are on my website, solely for the purpose of pinning on Pinterest, which from what I'm gathering from what you're saying now is just ass backwards from everything you're supposed to be doing.
I mean, you can do that, but you should be doing that in addition to a ton more, in order to get real results, huge, big,
right.
Yeah, kind of crazy results that some people are getting.
Go ahead.
What was I going to say? I was just going to say, imagine that if you were in the know and you had been pinning 15, 20 images a day, where those numbers could get to. With Pinterest, you're looking for virality. It tends to be that specific pins, most pins will just do nothing, and then specific pins will take off. That seems to be how the thing works. I've found that there's 2 images. So what we did is Sleepy made those 200 pins. At the same time, for a couple of days, I just went and gathered a whole load of images off Pinterest to repin into our own boards. And I gathered 2,000 images or something, and I scheduled them up inside a scheduler called Tailwind. And that is $15 a month, and it will just post those 13, 14 every day for me. So I just scheduled a whole load of stuff in those 2 days. Sleepy made hers. I just chucked them in, and I just said shuffle the queue. And now, so it was about a week's work, and now those pins just fly out every day. And hopefully we'll be seeing sort of how you just pinned once, and then eventually that turned into a bit of traffic. Hopefully we'll be seeing nice consistent traffic as those pins just fly off the shelves, basically.
It sounds like Sleepy is prepped for becoming a professional SEO website optimizer. I'm like, Sleepy, what's your hourly rate here?
You have to talk to Sleepy. I've suggested that she could start her own blog, for sure, and I think she's thought about it. And yeah, she is learning a lot. I kind of learn some stuff and then I pass it on to her. So yeah, I think you're right.
So, back to a serious question about Pinterest. What's the algorithm like? Is there an algorithm for Pinterest, or is there a minimum participation level that you have to exhibit for Pinterest to start sharing your post or showing it to other people?
I don't.
So there is an algorithm, because everything online has an algorithm. It's just a matter of whether it's quote unquote an abusive relationship type of algorithm, right? So with Instagram, you need to have a cadence, and that's a fancy word for saying a rhythm or pattern. Instagram, does Pinterest require that pattern of activity, or is it a dump and go type of thing? Is it, just to clarify the question?
You can definitely get away with dump and go, because Paintable, that's exactly what they do. As soon as they got a thing that they want to drive traffic to, they just throw pins at Pinterest, and then they leave. They're done for the next 2 weeks, and then the next thing they want to throw some traffic at, they just a whole load of pins, and then they're off. So you can definitely get away with fire and forget. It's because it's a search engine. See, Instagram and Twitter, the search is not a big part of those platforms. It's more about a feed. Pinterest definitely has a feed, but you often will head there in order to look for a specific thing. So you're going to type it in the search box. So that means that something that's pinned like right at the beginning of Pinterest has a good chance of showing up if it's very relevant to what you searched. Which means, so it doesn't matter if you're trying to game some sort of smart feed. Like it's not a large component of Pinterest.
The algorithm comes into impact with the related images. So you click one image, and then it finds a bunch of similar images that other people have also liked. They saw that image, but
Indeed, yeah.
without actually clicking the like button, which is important.
Right. That's where boards kind of come into it, because that's how it figures out related content. If people are putting the same image in the same board, putting related images in the same board. So it's like if you like this image from that board, maybe you would enjoy other images from that same board. So yeah, in that sense, there is an algorithm, and that's why you want to curate these boards of related images, so that when someone likes a particular image, someone pins a particular image from a board, they'll be recommended and hopefully drive some traffic to your blog, or to whatever it is you're trying to drive traffic to. It doesn't have to be a blog. It could be an ArtStation store. It could be your prints. It could be a print shop. I'm going to be trying Cryptoart, so I'm going to be trying to drive traffic from Pinterest through to Maker's Place. Who knows if that would ever result in sales? But Pinterest is fairly simple stuff. You just make some images and throw them up and see what happens. So might as well give it a shot and see what it results in.
I thought
Just to clarify from chat real quick. You don't make money directly from Pinterest, right? Even if you have a business account, it's not a revenue generation thing. It's a traffic generation for other areas, correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's why it works well with the blogging thing, because blogging, the articles, you also don't make money really from the article itself. You're driving traffic to a thing. So Pinterest and blogging are almost like the same thing, but one's for words and the other's for images.
I thought of something that I was meaning to ask way back in the crypto conversation. The Maker's Place, where you have your art, the crypto art that you have for sale, is there a way to connect that? Like if an artist had a personal website that they use as their main traffic funnel destination, can they attach the Maker's Place, the locations of their art on Maker's Place, to their personal website so that they don't have to separate the traffic flows?
Oh, you mean sort of like embed?
Yeah.
No, not yet. I expect that to be coming, because that's very common. Like Gumroad, you can do that with Gumroad, can't you? I expect that to be coming. If they're not on it yet, then I'd be ashamed of them, to be honest, because that's something they should definitely be doing for sure. These are quite small teams running these platforms. Like when you dig into it, you realize it's like 5 people, and they're really like scaling up very quickly. And but yeah, you can't do that yet. But I should manage it. It's only a matter of time.
As long as we're on the follow-up questions for the crypto thing, are there other outlets that you have your eye on, or do you plan on sticking with Maker's Place as the thing, or are there other avenues that you're looking down as well?
Well, because the Ethereum blockchain is so busy, which means that gas fees are so high, if I kind of want to sell anything right now, and also the prices of my art have gone up because you price in Ethereum on these platforms. So now my art that was priced at $700 is now priced at $1,300. And you could pay a transaction fee in order to change the price, but because Ethereum is so busy, the transaction fee to change the price is a lot of money. So I'm kind of like, it's stuck basically, Ethereum sales. So I'm going to be looking at, there's Wax, which is Atomic Hub. They're based on Wax, so that blockchain is much more scalable than Ethereum is, and they're already making good sales there. Like there's there's a, what is it called? It's like Pogs. It's got a name like Pogs. They basically made their own version of crypto Pogs, and they're trading like crazy over there. So Wax is definitely alive. There's Ghost Market, which is based on Phantasma blockchain, I think. There's Paras. So I'm going to be trying out all these different platforms. There's one called OpenSea, which is Ethereum based, but you don't have to pay transaction fees until you make a sale. So you can just jump in straight away and only pay if you sell. So I'll be trying out all these other platforms while the craziness with Ethereum is going on, and that's probably what I recommend anyone who's brand new to it. Oh, someone was in chat, was there, causing trouble?
Oh, it was a bot.
Oh, it was a bot. Oh yeah, of course it was.
They were trying to sell Ethereum. It was stupid.
Yeah, so that's what I'd recommend anyone who's looking to get into it now. Maybe Joby, if you were thinking about it, I would look at some of these other platforms. Maybe not Maker's Place, because right now it's going to be inundated with applications. Fees are really high. The only people who are able to sell at the moment are the people who are already established. In the future, it'll die down. The bubble will burst and things will go back to normal. And then you can try and get in on these platforms, hopefully having built up some cred, on the newer places. It'd be more likely to be accepted.
Man, this has been a vicious burn. I know you were saying that you would like to keep it as close to 2 hours, and we're coming up on that. So unless Moose, do you have any other follow-up questions?
Yeah. So one of the things we missed on early in the conversation was we didn't talk about your tutorials. That was an intermediate before you're switching over to doing the blog thing. So how did tutorials do for you? Like, how are they still doing for you?
So the Skillshare was actually a big part of why I switched from streaming to blogging, and we kind of skipped it, and I forgot about it. It's because, I released those Skillshare tutorials, and in the first, because I released the first ones while I was still streaming, and they made around $200 a month for both those months. And I thought, that's okay, it's all right, but how do I scale that up to more money? And I realized either I need to release more tutorials or I need a bigger audience. So Justin Donaldson has that bigger audience. So when he releases a tutorial, it makes a lot more than $200. So I decided okay, I could try and stack tutorials and slowly grow that into something meaningful, or I could figure out how to direct an audience to them. So that when I release a new tutorial, it makes a lot more than that $200. Since I stopped streaming, less traffic has been going to them, and so it's slowly crept down to around $50 a month. So that's all internal from Skillshare. That's people on Skillshare just coming across it and watching it. So it's pretty. It's not much, but so, I would say this month I put links over to Skillshare in one article, and that's where I got that extra $40 this month just from sending people over. So my Skillshare income will probably start growing again, but not from people watching my tutorials, from sending people to Skillshare.
So just from the smaller audience that you have, not that it's small, but it's smaller than Justin Donaldson, and you have 2 tutorials up, how much time did you spend making those tutorials, and how much money have you made from them in total so far over those 2 years?
It's been I think it's been about 18 months, something like that. They've made, I think it's about $1,200 in total. Something like that. I could double check, but it's definitely over 1,000.
And how many hours of work did you spend making those tutorials? Is that something you can quantify?
Yeah. So the first one, I probably spent 15 hours because I had to learn how to edit video. I'd never done it before. I didn't know how to do. The only thing I'd done is stream. I'd never, recorded anything. I'd never edited anything. I'd never yeah, I had to figure out like how to use DaVinci Resolve and cut video up and figure out the audio and stuff. So it probably took me like 15 hours, and that was a 2 hour tutorial. And then the second one was just a 1 hour tutorial, if I remember, and that was more like 8 hours or something, recording, planning, recording, editing, all that stuff.
So these are just single tutorials that you have on Skillshare. They're not like, for some reason, I had it in my head that Skillshare you have to put up courses, like it has to be a series of classes. I don't know why I was thinking that.
No, they just want you to put up. It has to be at least 20 minutes or something like that. They recommend between 20 minutes and like 3 hours, and you should break it up into sort of bite-size chunks, like 5-minute chunks if you can. That's their guidelines.
They call them courses so they can feel good about themselves, right? Instead of calling them tutorials.
When you have something on Skillshare,
agree.
can you put it on other places like
Yes.
Gumroad or yeah? Okay.
Yeah, that's going to be part of the long-term plan. So this year we'll probably be concentrating on more articles to get more traffic, affiliate links leading people through to the things they're looking for. Affiliate links to other courses is something that would definitely, because that's what Skillshare is affiliate links to other people's courses. But maybe I could talk to Justin, and maybe, because I don't know how he's fulfilling his courses, but might be able to sort out some sort of affiliate thing there. If he doesn't want to write those blog posts, I will happily do it, and send people that want to learn gouache over to him, get a small kickback from him. And then long term would be to make my own courses, put them on Skillshare, put them on Udemy, put them on ArtStation, put them Gumroad, and send people from the blog to my own courses. That's the long term goal. But the reason I want to do the blog first is so that I know what to make the courses on.
So, to quick recap, you can put your videos on Skillshare and other sites as long as the place you put the tutorial isn't free. So you can't put them on YouTube. Though I do know of at least one artist who has his videos for free on YouTube and on Skillshare. They're blank minutes to better blanks.
Oh,
that guy. And they're great videos, and they're on Skillshare and they're on YouTube. But anyway,
Are they the same? Are they actually? They're not YouTube. They're not excerpts. They're literally exactly the same video. I didn't realize they were the same
video.
ones.
Yeah,
strange.
I had a trial account with Skillshare, and I watched them there, and I was like, "Yes, it's the exact same video, and it's exactly 10 minutes long." Sorry, 10 minutes to better blanks. We now have that filled in. All right. And as far as the hourly rate that you got from those tutorials, if anyone wants to do the math at home, it was $1,200 you've made so far, roughly, and 23 hours, roughly. That's about $52 an hour, and that's only going to go up based on the work you've already done, and now everything after that is just increasing. So for people at home that are having a hard time justifying selling your work for more than $20 an hour, there's money to be made that's at considerably higher margins than selling a commission for a dwarven character's bust for $80.
Yeah, there's a number of artists that Moose has been, let's say, chastising for quite a while to like get tutorials made. I happen to be one of them, and there's this weird thing that my brain does whenever I hear about a successful model that somebody has proven to work, is that like, well, now nobody else can do it. Not because it's like unoriginal, but just now there's a limited number of opportunities to do that. Now it's like it's gone. Do you have a sense of there being a saturation to the market, or is this a model, your blog to Skillshare long-term plan? Is that something that people can access now and and still have long-term success from?
I would say definitely, absolutely. It might not be that Skillshare sticks around, but you still have your video. You still made the course. It's just Skillshare is just the platform that you're selling it on. So if Skillshare disappears, people are still going to want to learn, as long as you're making things that stay relevant. So for example, my courses are my 2 classes, they're Photoshop, how to paint in Photoshop. As long as people still want to paint in Photoshop, they're still going to want to watch video tutorials about how to paint in Photoshop. I would say that YouTube is growing like crazy. Even though it's huge already, it's taking up a bigger share of the video like every day, So YouTube may push out things like Skillshare, like those sort of bite-sized videos. People might just keep going back to YouTube for that stuff. But for a bigger thing like Justin's courses, those larger $300 things that go in depth, it's very hard to teach in depth on YouTube because of the way the platform is. You jump between video to video, and the way ad revenue works, you kind of want those 15-minute, 10-minute, 15-minute videos. So I think this stuff has legs, and yeah, they're assets that you own. So at the moment, like I've made my money back. Like Moose was saying, I've made my money back the time I invested in making those courses, and now it's just pure. It's just icing on the cake, And I can always I own the assets now, so I could always package them up in a big, nice, bow. If Skillshare goes down, then I can sell them on my own site. I can just rewrite the blog post a little bit instead of it saying, go over here to Skillshare to watch these things. Just here they all are on my site. Like purchase them all as a bundle. I think that it's just teaching is not something that's going to go away, basically.
And it's the model, right? So the idea is not that you just make these tutorials and you put them on Gumroad or Skillshare and walk away. That works, though. Blake, who we had on earlier, did that. Up until recently, Chris had basically done that. But the idea is you funnel the people from the places where they can find you through Google, which is what the blog is for. Google finds the blog, and then you put them to the tutorials or the referral links. Or you make YouTube videos where it's a giant search engine also, or Pinterest, which is a giant search engine. So these are the areas where people can find you. It's not a matter of like Instagram where you hope people find you and then they stay there. That's an island. That's not what you want to work with. You want to find people that you can funnel to the place that you're providing the tutorials.
Yeah, and I think the key thing is that those are treadmills. Like if you make a post on Instagram, if you were to if I stopped posting on Instagram like a year ago, and now like nothing happens on my Instagram account. If I was to stop, I haven't written a single article this month, and the site has grown. If I was to throughout this whole year, I expect if I wasn't to write another article at all, I still would expect the site to grow in traffic this year. More people coming to the blog with no extra work done. That's the key difference. Is that once it's an asset, that once it's built, it's doing its thing. You don't have to worry about it again. Same with the Skillshare courses. Once they're built and you put them up, they do their thing. You no longer have to participate in selling them.
One more question about the blog. Google and the search analytics there, it treats each of those blog posts as its own unique item, right? It doesn't, Instagram will start punishing you if your posts aren't doing great. So if you have one blog that's not getting that much traction, Google doesn't necessarily take that into account when it's considering the performance of your other blogs. Is that correct?
It will. What it kind of does is there's this idea of domain authority, which is or site authority. It's the authority that Google sees your site as having. Now, it's not something that they come out and said that they do, but it's basically it's how much history that your site has on Google, how how people have interacted with it in the past, if you've done any scammy stuff, and basically it's like a rating that they give you, and you definitely grow that rating over time. So at the beginning, my site's brand new. If I was to write an identical article or almost identical article to someone else whose site is much older, and so it's established and it's got authority with Google, then they would rank above me purely because they have more authority than me. So it's definitely a factor, but it's not like if you put out one bad article, that's going to bring all your articles down. It's more that just Google's not going to, that's not going to add much to your authority rating, if you know what I mean.
Right. So that authority rating, though, is a, I don't know, how do I say it? Like a relatively continuous incline. So as opposed to it being something that starts off slowly, and then if Google doesn't see it taking off fast enough, it squashes you down. It's an equal opportunity for it to just continue to keep moving upwards.
Pretty much. If you were to start doing some scammy stuff, or if you were to, if you weren't to keep your content very relevant, so if you've got articles that link out to things that then disappear off the internet, you've got all these broken links in your articles, then that Google would look at that and be like, this guy doesn't maintain his writing. So yeah, you would sort of drop in that case. So it's as long as your site isn't getting functionally worse, then they don't punish you exactly. No.
So there are a lot of, so we've covered like basically 3 topics. We've covered Cryptoart, we've covered blogging, and we've covered Pinterest, blogging, crypto. Yeah. What are the major resources that you learned for each of the found for each of those that you would refer people to if they want to learn more, or is it all on your blog already?
It's not on my blog already. There's definitely, I want to write something about Pinterest. Sleepy did a whole load of research just for our own purposes about how Pinterest works, and I've done my own independent research. So we've got a document, and I want to turn that into a Pinterest blog post once we have better results, and I can, put screenshots of what we've achieved and stuff. Same with blogging. I'd like to do the same. Once we're actually making legit money with the thing, then I'll write articles about how to do it. So I've got some proof that it works and that proof that it makes money. It's not going to be that long. I expect by its 1 year anniversary, we'll be making about $1,000 a month. That's the goal. So that'll be end of June. There's $1,000 a month, and then end of the year, we don't know, multiple thousands is the goal. So hopefully this stuff will be up on the site. Same with Cryptoart. Hopefully stuff will be on eventually. Until then, there's YouTube channels. There's particular YouTube channels that I really like. Income School for blogging. And then to learn about Pinterest, Anastasia Blogger is really good. She's a blogger, but she uses Pinterest to drive her traffic as opposed to Google.
I'm going to ask you to spell that out for Joby after the show.
Okay, yeah. Her channel is really good. It's all about Pinterest, and she makes good money. Again, like 20, 30, ridiculous numbers, 20, 30,000 a month. That's Pinterest. And then Cryptoart is so new that there aren't many channels talking about it, but one is Rhett Mankind, I think is what his channel is called. He's been in it for about 6 months, I think. He's got some really cool work. And he's done some really good beginner videos about Cryptoart. He streams occasionally. I really like his stuff, but again, the Cryptoart scene is so fresh that there aren't many resources around. The resources that do exist kind of assume a certain amount of knowledge of how blockchain and crypto works as well. So it's hard to find like beginner level stuff. But yeah, Rhett, RHETT, Mankind.
Yeah, after the show, I'll send you a message to get all of these links.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Man, so fucking cool. Chris, thank you so much for this. Just a couple questions to tie it all up in a nice package. If you want people to find you and all of the stuff that you're working on, where should we send them?
Well, selfemployedartist.com, all one word, no hyphens or anything. And I've also got NidianLegacy.com is up. It's very, very small. There's a tiny thing happening there. I'm hoping to grow it slowly this year. Those 2 websites would be good. And maybe my Twitter, Chris Cant Art. maybe Twitter. If you like Discord, then we've got, you go through selfemployedartist.com into the Discord. There's an article talking about Discord, and you can join us in there. Our Discord's badass. So,
It really is.
Yeah.
Can vouch for that. I feel bad we didn't get to we get to it. We should have started at the beginning with a little bit of the Nidian legacy, because that's such a great project. We're going to have you on again and have you talk about that personal project and follow up on how all of these things have been going. And just one more question for you. Outside of career and art, what's one thing that's happening in the world right now that you're excited about?
Aside from Joby's Kickstarter.
I have been following that. I'm surprised you don't have any higher ticket items. I thought, where's the big ticket thing, Joby?
Yeah, that's a long story.
I'm going to cheat a little bit, and this is related to crypto again. But when I was digging into NFTs, I came across decentralized finance, and that is amazing. When these different blockchains and crypto, they're not quite currencies. They're kind of like NFTs again. These different projects came around. I came across them that are basically emulating different things from the finance world. So like moving money, transferring money from across continents in like seconds for tiny fees. What else is going on? Oh, there's stable coins now, which don't fluctuate in value. They're tethered to the value of real currencies. So there's a few US dollar stable coins that they're tethered to the value of the US dollar. And there's one called DAI, that if you hold some DAI on Coinbase, which is a cryptocurrency wallet, if you hold DAI in there, you get 2% annual yield. So you get yearly interest on it. And I don't know how the state of banking in America, but in England, it's very hard to get 2% on a savings account.
1% maybe.
Yeah, if you're lucky. I think it's 0.2 would be hard to find in England at the moment. So to be able to hold US dollar equivalent and earn 2% interest is pretty cool. But on top of that, I found a platform called Ava, where it's decentralized lending, loaning and borrowing of cryptocurrencies. And you can get 15% yield for currencies that you lend out.
So if I buy a bunch of Doge coin, I can then go on to Ava and lend out that crypto and still make money on it, whether or not the lending goes well or bad?
Yeah. Yes. I mean, if Doge went all the way down, then another 15% yield on zero is not very good. But the way it works, it depends on supply and demand. If demand is high, the annual yield goes up. If supply is too high, the annual yield will go down. But yeah, people put up other crypto as collateral, so that if they default on the loan, you get their collateral. It's all decentralized. It's amazing, and it makes me wonder what's going to happen to traditional banking, because already, if I can have two,
bye,
especially with the whole the GameStop, Robinhood stocks thing,
right,
the banks offering such low interest. I'm seriously considering, like, what money should I keep in my bank account, and what money should I convert into DAI stablecoin to get 2%, and then perhaps even lend it to other people and get 11%. I think it is for DAI at the moment. It just blew me away.
Yeah, the whole world of blockchain and crypto it's so crazy. It's so wild, man. I'm so excited about it. I share your. I'm happy that was the thing that you that you decided to end on, because I get tingles at whenever we think about it. So
buy GME,
buy Moosecoin. On that note, Chris, I think this is a great place to wrap it up, man. I'm gonna wave goodbye to you and say thank you again. This was such a great conversation. Everybody in the chat has fucking loved it. I can't wait to have you on again, man. Yeah,
I had fun. Thank you very much. I wonder if I don't remember half of what I've said. Perhaps I was very rambling, but no, it was a good time. I really enjoyed this. Thanks very much.
I will definitely listen to it again myself. I'm sure a lot of other people will. But I'm going to hit end on the record.